there, it's Sean Mosh designing for 12 by 12 cardstock shop today. We're going to make this adorable little paper wreath. We're going to start off in Design Space and click Upload and Upload Image. Then we're going to browse to where you've downloaded the SVG file. And there's the preview of the SVG file. Now let's click Continue. Here is where you could change the name of it to maybe something you'd remember if you were searching your project files in Design Space. You could add tag words here. You could add the word Christmas, whatever you want. These all just help you search and find the images you've uploaded. And there's the design. If we look over to the right on the Layers panel, you'll see a little arrow. That means I have multiple pieces of this design grouped together. If I click on the arrow, I can see those groupings. So we're going to click Ungroup, and then you can see again there's another arrow here, which means I grouped those two pieces together specifically. So let's turn off the bow and the back layer and just look at this centerpiece and the little, I'm going to call them arrows or V's. The reason I have these grouped together is because I wanted them perfectly aligned and centered for you to make this process easy for you. So there is one small thing you're going to have to do to make this work. You're going to have to click on this grouping and select Attach. Attach holds the placement and position of things. So now you've told Design Space, keep these little V-like arrow things cutting in exactly the spot that we told them to. I'm going to turn on the other pieces. That's it. Now it's time to pick out your papers and start cutting. My biggest tip for this project is that you're going to get the best results when you're using cardstock that has different colors on each side or different patterns, as in the case with the white Christmas pattern cardstock that I'm using here. It has the deep green on one side and the bright red on the other. I have done this also with some cardstock that was dark green and light green, but you really want that contrast of colors for the design element of this to pop. One thing I really like to do in my videos is share some tips and tricks with you, and you're going to see a few of them coming up. When this stops cutting, you're going to see me kind of lift up the cardstock to check and see if it cut all the way through. I do this because if it did not cut all the way through, I could press the center button to have it cut exactly in the same spot a second time. This only works if you have not unloaded your cutting mat. Once you do unload your cutting mat, I like to flip the mat upside down and then I curl the mat away from the cardstock. This helps so that your cardstock that you pulled away, that big piece, doesn't curl up around the edges. I'm going to save this center piece because knowing me, I will find something at some point to use it for. The first thing you're going to want to do is figure out which color or which side you want to be the front of your wreath. I am going to have the green color be the front of my wreath. So you can see there's these little cuts and they make kind of a V or arrow shape. And there's a big one and a little one. So let's take the bigger of the two and just fold all of those up. And I'm doing this, I go all the way around folding them up like this just because I find it easier to work with. Now that we have all of them kind of standing up, we're going to take these that we've folded up and tuck them underneath the smaller little V or arrow shape. And you'll see when you tuck it under that smaller shape, it just kind of pops in there and holds it. And then you start to see the color from the backside come through. Now, the first couple kind of gave me a hard time, but then once I got into it, I got a rhythm going. It also doesn't help that I'm doing this on camera. Everything you do on camera seems to be more difficult because you're trying to get things centered and in frame versus just doing it. But here you can see as I start to get going, I can kind of just pop those underneath. Now, if you wanted to, you could have made the red the front and popped the green forward. But because I really wanted this to look like a wreath, I figured green was better for my main front color. Backside is pretty also. I feel like it looks like a braided ribbon kind of going through the wreath. So then after we have the wreath all ready, we just need to add the little bow. You could even grab some ribbon and tie a little bow and place it on your wreath. I'm going to use my Zig two-way glue pen because I love that I can just put a little dot of glue and then place this exactly where I want it. Originally, this was going to be the end of my project. And honestly, I had this sitting on my craft table for a couple days. I was like, it needs something else. And what I decided was that it needed a solid color backing. And that's going to allow another color to pop through these little openings and really bring this whole design to life. I did make this background shape just slightly larger than the wreath because I didn't want a big bulky border around the entire wreath because again, I want this braided colored center to really be the focus. But I think you're going to see how after I put that backing on there, it just helps so much. It really adds another dimension to it because of the color coming through the openings. And once again, when I unload my mat, I'm going to flip it over and roll the mat away from the cardstock. Now you can see I have the put together wreath and the backing. Originally, I was going to use my double-sided sticky tape to put some adhesive on the back of the wreath and just place it on the backing. But due to the braid, it was just kind of too hard and I was worried that you might see some of the tape coming through. So I grabbed my Zig two-way glue pen. If you haven't heard me talk about these, I love them. They hold like a normal pen, so you're not holding this big, bulky bottle of glue, which I love. And it writes like a pen. Then, after you have adhesive in all of these little sections, you just line the wreath up on the backing and place it. You can see it's just a really, really tiny offset. It's more about having the color come through the braid than having a color around the inside or outside of the wreath. Now that our wreath is done, you can start to think about how you might like to use it as a decoration, as a embellishment on a gift you're giving, or maybe even as a gift tag. I could totally see putting somebody's picture in the center of this and having it hang as an ornament on the tree. And experiment with different papers like I did here. I did some in kind of a traditional red and green, but then I moved to some other pattern papers to give kind of a different look and feel. This one here kind of has that flannel shirt cozy vibe going on. And then I even tried a few with snowflakes. So you don't have to stick with the reds and greens. Try some different pattern papers and just experiment and see what happens. This last one, I used rose gold as my backing. Thanks for joining me. I hope you enjoyed this project.